This is working. Microphone is working. Audio is working. Everything should be working. My project is opening up. We have 2 tracks for the feedback. Now, welcome to the stream. First person here, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. And today, we're just gonna be doing some feedback. I want to do a little bit, not too much, but I did want to do a bit today as opposed to just working on a track. Last week I didn't stream because I was a little bit sick. I think I messaged in the Discord about that, but I don't know. This week I'm already doing a little bit better, but I still have a little bit of a cough. And I just heard from a lot of people that they have the same issue, so it seems to be happening everywhere. In the sense that a couple of or at least one guy on Eclipse has the same thing, and he's living somewhere else in Europe, and some people in the Netherlands. Of course, some of my family that I talked to also had the same thing. So yeah, definitely maybe a little bit under the weather. I'm sick too, lol. Nice. We're all sick together. I think it has to do with, yeah, the weather just changing in Europe. And it did change really fast for us. 2 weeks ago, I would say. It was maybe 10 degrees warmer. And then in 2 days, I think it just dropped by 10 degrees. Something like that. Not me, sorry. Don't worry. You don't have to be. But yeah, as I said, we're going to be doing a little bit of feedback as soon as the project opens. It seems to be stuck on a single track or a single thing here. So let's hope. Oh, there we are. Nice. Yeah, you can see it is a big project, so that there's definitely a reason for it to take a while to load. And it's still doing that. It still has to open up all of the samples and whatnot as well. You can see slowly opening up. I should have opened this up before I started my stream. I know. Oop. I wanted to select the feedback group here. And then go through this. I can't wait to have my new PC to do projects like this. It's gonna be amazing if you have your new PC. If you're already able to do what you're able to do on a 13-year-old PC, like you told me, that's crazy. That's very crazy. Like the amount of like freezing and stuff that you probably no longer have to do is going to hopefully lead up to more things. Because one thing that I like about my setup and my PC is that it's powerful enough that I can leave everything in MIDI. And that just means that I can always, in the production at least, go back into an idea and say, okay, I want to just make a small change to it, right? Whereas if you render, you either have to do audio manipulation, and that means that you're going to have certain things that you're just not able to do, or you're going to have to redo the patch entirely, right? So you're a little bit less incentivized to just quickly dive in and try to make something of it, I guess, or make something new of it. But yeah, as I said, first we're going to start with a little bit of feedback. We have now 3 tracks, starting with Fulado, who has Emo Trap. I need some song ideas, please, which I'll try to help with. But he's mainly asking if what he made is boring. So we'll have a listen for that. Fragmental Sound, how are you doing? Welcome. Omnisphere loads in 30 seconds to latency between 2 presets, and it can only load 1 instance. So that is the point where I'm at now with this project. Of course, being able to load multiple instances, but the amount of lag like that. So that would be great for you. Very distant sounds overall. I think that is a little bit the vibe that you're going for. Same way that the like re-sync, I wouldn't call it a bass, but the re-sync pad came in the intro as well as in the break. Here I would drop out the original melody synth and just have the new melody synth play. Because I do maybe think you're on the right track and that it's a little bit boring, and you can just switch it up by moving between instruments a little bit more. So here introduce a few new synths, maybe even a new melody. Just have those take over as opposed to those being the main melodies again, and or the main melody just kind of constantly playing. Here again, we see this little filter thing happening. You seem to be doing that all the time. And if you want to do that stuff, just make a different automation for it, because we notice that it's the same automation. Honestly, even the same idea. If you by yourself have to, I guess, think like, oh, is this track boring or not, then it's probably a good time to look at how many ideas do I have in the track and how many times am I repeating the same idea or the same little principle here. So break where just this melody plays, I believe this is the second one or the third one. So that would be something there where you would say like, okay, maybe I can, I don't know, change this up with a choir sound here. And then drop back in the melody here. Adrian, how are you doing? Welcome. Where do you submit the song for the feedback? You go !feedback. Like this. That should tell you everything. Tucker, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Overall, cool stuff. I like it. I like the vibe that you're going for. I like the main instrumentation that you have. I think is really good, and mix is decently well polished as well. But I do indeed agree with you that it could be a little bit more interesting in the sense that you could look to take the several different ideas that you're using in multiple parts of the track and try to extract that so that you can have that idea as just one segment of the track. Right, like I said, instead of every break having the melody in there, try two breaks having the melody in there and then one break where you have a choir pad playing the chords or something like that. It is saying for me the feedback channel is locked for me to answer. Yes, by design. You should read the feedback rules. And grab for a thingy. Yeah. We have that in place so that people actually read the rules and have to like do an action to accept them. So I'm essentially 100% certain that you have read that part, because I also never say you just have to like react to the thing to do that. I always tell people like read the rules, and then if you do that, you will know what to do. And it's just so that they read the first part, the actual important part. I don't care that you check a check mark. I care that you read the part that's above it. So that's why I have to do it this way. But it is a little extra step that you have to do to get into the feedback thing. Oh fuck, I missed my track. Well, fortunately on YouTube you can actually skip backwards, but if I were only streaming to Twitch, yeah, then this would have been lost to time. I guess, unless if I had the VOD public, you would be able to see it as well, I guess. I'm fine, finally finished one big work, decide to send it for feedback. Hope it to be good. We'll see. But first we have Voidwalker. The first part bugs me out a bit, the rest feels fine for my taste. Let's see. This is a very long track. I also, strange waveform here. Will be interesting to see what this track does. But this one is going to be a marathon. It's an interesting idea. I'm not sure I like this bass line. I personally always like the more plucky stuff, the tick 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 tick, as opposed to this kind of gritty thing where you're actually like opening up the bass over time more. As you can see here in the mid-range frequencies, you can see like the individual clicks of the waveform, right? So there will be a click here, and then a click here maybe somewhere. And that is what is showing on the spectrum. Yeah, you can see them actually. 1, 2, 3 here, which would correspond to the 3 clicks that you would see. The lowest one, the middle one, and then the highest one here. I personally like the first one to be like nice and going into the high frequencies, and the rest of it not so much, so that you really get like a more punchy click to it. Overall, this is quite a bit more experimental than I do. But I like it. I hope volume is okay, by the way. I can make it louder. Overall, the sound design and the synth work is really good. Could be a little bit more depth in there in just the way that you set your volumes with I guess the main sound coming through a little bit more if you want to have main sounds in this. Kick rolls, you definitely want to make sure that you're fading out. With these very short ones, it can be really hard to make sure that it's actually back, but it seems that you're trying to do that pretty nicely. There is some bleeding happening here, so I feel like you're maybe doing a little bit of EQ or whatever phase shifting process there is on the master or kick and bass group or whatever, but I think that's gonna be okay. I like this kick and bass a lot more. I would do the whole project with this kick and bass. This one sounds a lot lower, a lot deeper, a lot more flowy, which I like. So I would probably go for this one actually. Personally, I would make the kicks slimmer and punchier, but the experimental side of the high BPM people usually do this kind of bumpy kicks. Yes, I do hear this quite a lot in the... I guess it's not so much even the faster stuff where I hear this, but I hear it in where they have where they forgo kind of all, how do you call it, the syncopation. In the sense that there's no, like, for example, just to give you an idea, there's no clap on the 2 and the 4 here, right? There's like a background snare that is just doing its own unique pattern. So we've gotten to the point of experimentalism in in I guess the Psytrance that I would almost categorize this as your through just dancing, and this is also where at the festivals, when you look at festivals where this kind of Psytrance is played, you see people mainly just standing there and really just focusing on the music, I guess. I don't remember what it's called, but there's I believe it's in Greece, there's a festival where I've seen a lot of content from. Had a really nice black stage made out of like 2 skulls or something like that, or one big skull, or a face that looked like it. Manga Mysteria, maybe. That sounds like a name I remember. Oh yeah. That's it. Look at the stage. Very cool. But this is the kind of music that I would expect to be played there. My friend do this party. It's a killer party indeed. Very cool. Did I actually... Yeah, it's actually from Greece. Yeah, so I did remember correctly. Cool that you can see all of the individual modulation lines on the spectrum there. For me personally, it's too fucked up, but I can imagine that a few of people enjoy this kind of Psytrance stuff. Yeah, this is definitely not the kind of Psytrance that one starts with. This is the kind of Psytrance that you, once you're already high at a more normal Psytrance party and you stay until the late hours, you accidentally discover you have a passion for. And then you don't want to ever do anything else. This is the Psytrance equivalent of having a very strange kink, to say it like that. Now this explains also the waveform looking strange in here. I guess this is all going to be break, isn't it? It's a cool song, a little bit too airy for me. I would go for more foundation and cadence, but it has personality and modular feeling to it. Yeah, I guess, honestly, I find it hard to judge within the subgenre itself, like what I like and what I don't like. Overall, I like it as a sound design concept. There's a lot of cool things that you're doing in here, sound design wise, so that is why I'm a fan of this. Honestly, I would like to know though, how would you play this in a set, or are you planning this as a set like Ender? Because you have the long break at the end, and then it just stops. Or are you still writing a second drop after this? Also, something I always wonder with these kind of things is how much of it is done deliberately and how much is just a random batch doing things. Like, are the volumes and of this main synth and all of that, is that all done deliberately? Are you all setting it up for it to come in here in this note and stop here in that note? Or is it all just triggering a little bit at random and you have just chosen the best part, or maybe cut some parts together or stuff like that? Is it... You know what I mean? Because I think I would personally do this by just fully randomly generating it. But then you wouldn't have the amount of control that you would maybe go over and say like, oh, this bleep, I would want to have that lower, or this bleep, I would want to have that higher, or something like that. Like the delaying, distorted thing that we're hearing here that I find really cool. Also, I sent the wrong export that was supposed to be a choir at the end. Ah, okay. Overall, it's not like it... Honestly, it didn't get boring. I would see this working for this kind of Psytrance if you're... Let's say that you're... Okay. Because you have such a long, continuous structure here with very little fills, and the fills that you do have, they are like kick rolls, as opposed to actually, okay, stop, have a bar of rest, and then put the kick and bass back in. This feels like a very dense track, and I imagine that if other tracks are as dense, it would be nice to have at the end of the set, not just, okay, here's the final 16 bars of outro, and then I'm going to stop it, and then my set is over, but to have, you know, a few minutes like you do over here, that is just this break of maybe a few of the elements still staying, the bass kind of under there pushing. You could maybe do a little bit more with the volume kind of coming in, or just playing around with it, but just overall having these elements like this and then just closing out as like a set closer, that could be really cool in its current state. I don't think it needs the choir. It could also maybe need the choir. Of course, I haven't heard it with the choir, so I don't know. But it's definitely some cool ideas. I like it. Unsure how to continue this fragmental. Let's see. Unfinished thing. The main wobbling sounds feel like they're an octave. This new one that you add is nice, but the first one felt like it was an octave too high. Overall, the mix is fairly dark and fairly bass heavy. Would be nice to have some more interest in the high frequencies as well. Apart from just noise and stuff like that, just like hats and cymbals and percussions and that kind of stuff in there. honestly, this is much better as that first drop. That first drop sounded definitely less professionally put together than the stuff that you're doing here. This has the kind of loudness that I would also expect for this kind of aggression that you have now, and I thought in the first drop that like the sidechain was a little bit rough. Now if you hear this, it makes sense that the track as a whole has that, but that is kind of what you get if you have one drop that is like at this energy level and the next one is a little bit higher. The next step that I would therefore do is try to get the first drop thingy, either turn it into a break within the context of your track, like don't have it build up to it, drop and then break and then build into the other thing. You can maybe transform that into something like a break or something like that. Or I would try to lift it up so that it has the same energy and the same power as the first. So that it's like, okay, this is the first ID drop, this is the second ID drop, and then trying to just polish that in the same way that you polished the second part, where you have like stops and where you're cutting out and where you're... Honestly, it felt like the mix was also clear in that second part. So all of the things that you were doing in that second drop, try to do that either to the first drop or use the first drop as kind of like a break in a way for the second one, if you know what I mean. That is what I would do. That is what I would continue in this project. Do you know the song Searching for UFOs from Astral Projection? I recently found it and it's absolutely fell in love. There's that old school Psytrance style. I have heard it a couple of times. It's not like in my playlist or anything like that. It's not something that I listen to much because I'm personally not too big of a fan of more old school styles. But it's definitely something that people love a lot. So yeah, that's cool. Nice to see you getting more into Psytrance, and hopefully at some point you're also going to fall as deep down the rabbit hole as all of us have and start appreciating the music that we just played that you said you didn't appreciate yet. Or that wasn't for you yet, to say it like that. Okay, we have two more. Tucker here, new experimental work for me. Tried to spend more time on mixing. Hope that will be noticeable. I don't know. We'll see. Honestly, it's really hard to remember for each person what their level is. This already feels a little bit clogged in that I would probably take the background quite a bit lower there. Overall, quite a bit of noise happening in here. Quite a bit of reverb that is hard to understand where you're going. So this is definitely on the experimental side, but I think the mix can definitely be better for this. Like the main melody isn't really coming through here for me. There's a lot of reverb and noise. Yeah, it sounds like you're all continuously playing just white noise in here. Which is the opposite that you want to do. You want to leave that space so all of those individual transients come through and they're noticeable in the mix. Maybe it's not noise, maybe it's some kind of distortion. It sounds like there's some distorted thing happening in here. Lacking a little bit of high frequencies in there. The only high frequencies that you have is that noise thing, and it's not really coming from your percussions or your cymbals. The same is kind of true with your low frequencies there. The kick doesn't really have a lot of like sub And the bass line is also pretty high. That is the bass line being high is okay, but then have a kick that has a little bit more to it, a little bit more punch to it. Right now it feels like the mix is very mid-range focused. So 3 mixing problems that I would still address is the muddiness. Anytime that you're playing just white noise, remove that channel. Just don't, I don't see any reason for there to just be noise in a track. Like continuously, right? There used to be about 15 years ago, a few people that said, oh, add white noise to your leads so that it fills up the frequency spectrum. And one, I'd never really understood it, because why would you want to fill up the frequency spectrum deliberately with the least musical possible signal that there is, which is what white noise is, right? It's literally random. And second, that only holds for leads that are like rhythmical and that cut, you know, the big room leads where you have, okay, here we have the lead that plays for a little bit and then it stops, and then the reverb kind of continues, and then the next hit of the lead happens. Here it was just like continuous noise. In the sense there was no stop to it. It wasn't adding to, say, a rhythm or something like that. So it doesn't feel like it's really contributing at all to the musical idea. And that is really how you should think about a mix. Is like, okay, how much does this sound work with the musical idea? And how much does it therefore need to sit in the mix? I've never been a fan of layering noise either. I've never gotten it. And I don't think I've ever done it, unless it was, like I said, it's part of a rhythmical thing. And maybe even in that case, I would have the noise maybe just have an attack, right? So that it becomes like a plucky noise thing. And then it starts to have a function in that it's giving impact to the sound. But yeah, overall, just putting white noise in there, like a longer file, playing that in my opinion never does anything good for you in a mixing contest. It just fills up space that could easily be filled with actual music. Okay, next up we have already released track in a label, but I want to hear what you have to say about it. Mix and master done by me. Pavrati Sarves Ham Savir Swastir Bhavatu. I definitely butchered that, but we'll have a listen to it and hopefully that will make it better. I know it's a track name, but it's not easy to pronounce for me. Nice, strong kick and bass, I like it. Seems like it could use a little bit of resampling here. It seems like you're between bass notes bleeding, but the kick seems fine here. Just looking at the waveform. I'll check the different key if that has a slightly better, but not by much. The drums are cool that you have here, but it's one thing that can be nice is to maybe start modulating the drums, specifically with something like a frequency shifter, format shifter, pitch shifter, something that takes the frequency content of the spectrum up and down and start making that into waves as opposed to the same like the same note every time. Right? Imagine this this individual harmonic here going either this guy or this guy, whichever the harmonic is that is that. The drums. That thing, if that goes up and down the spectrum. That has also been playing for quite a while now. little bit loud on the bass thing here. Always make sure that that is lower than the actual bass and stuff that you're using here, so that this has more impact. And then keep in mind that the level of the bass here is like on average this level, whereas that bass effect, it had a moment where for a while was just up here and then went down, right? So even if if one peak looks like it's loud enough, that doesn't mean that the perceived volume of the kick and bass is louder than the volume of whatever bass effects that you're doing. And definitely don't do them when the kick and bass is still playing. Thanks for the feedback. I tried for the first time to use white noise, but it seems like a terrible idea. It definitely is. And if you're, continuing the mix, there's what I would do if I were you is I would mute every sound, set its volume to 0 dB, do this in a new project or save it, and then just go unmute the most important element, set its sound, unmute second most important element, set its volume, unmute the third most important element, set its volume, and just go through the volume balance like that, because that is already a massive thing. And what you have to understand is that the depth of your volume mix, so to say, is going to be the difference between the highest volume that you set and the lowest volume that you set. And in this case, I'm just counting the number on the fader, right? I don't care if that's LUFS, peaks, RMS, whatever you want to use, but I just care that the depth is going to be the difference between the loudest and quietest sound. What you likely want is the depth of your mix to be higher, right? For the distance between the lowest and highest volumes to be higher within your track. Because right now it felt a little bit pushed all together. And that is one of the reasons why, as I said, sometimes your transients don't really come through, sometimes your leads don't really come through, sometimes the important elements of the track have to be in the center of it. And the main way that you do that is just by setting it to be louder than the other elements. Or technically you turn the other elements down usually. I guess it's a little bit part of the style, but I'm really getting sick of the almost constant drum and to a certain extent also the vocal, but it would be nice for both of those elements to cut out and suddenly to have a switch at some point in this track here. But maybe that is also because I usually listen to much more fast switching Psytrance styles. This is just like the other track. It's definitely in a certain style that accommodates this slower morphing version a lot more than just the type of Psytrance that I listen to. Like just this, not as the outro, but as a segment in the middle could be really cool. To, you know, instead of you build up the track in the drop and then it stays throughout the whole thing and then it goes down again, you just go up and then go up again. Do that once or twice in the course of 6 minutes, and that is how you kind of get the progressive way of building up a Psytrance track. And honestly, that can be really cool to implement in more slow, morphing, repetitive types of Psytrance as well, just as a moment of you snap out of it and then you slowly go back into it kind of idea, as opposed to always being in it. You know what I mean? Ivetet, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. More progression and less straight to the point at all time. It's not so much about just the more progression, it's more about the way you add it. This is a bad example, this track, but what you could do is say that you have this structure where this is a drop and this is a drop, and you have like a very small break in between, is that you go, okay, I build it up over here, over from here to here, say. It takes a little bit of time for all of the elements to come in, and then sequences to develop, and throughout this part you're still changing things, and that sequences drop out and new sequences come in, synths drop out and new synths come in, the vocal maybe stops for a little moment and then it comes back, some drums change over time and whatnot. But the real change might actually happen where you just go back to just kick and bass, for example, or you really bring it up to a climax and then you go into an actual break, right? Usually what you'll notice in a lot of Psytrance is that right before the break or right before any big change is the moment where the track kind of builds up to a climax, so that the snap is bigger, right? You kind of, it's not so much about progression, which I think of as like flowing through a track. It's more about kind of breaking the progression and really giving the listener that moment of, here you are, you're back, listen to how powerful the kick and bass is now, because it does sound more powerful when it plays solo after all of the elements have been mixing through it and playing through it for such a long time. You know what I mean? So, I guess what I'll do is first of all, let's make a new note track, because I'm probably going to have a lot more stuff to write about what I want to change. And then we're going to have a playthrough. I'm going to be listening to the track and making notes on what I can change. I'll make sure to add this to my next production. Holy shit. Words. They're so difficult. Anyway, yeah. I'm going to play this track here, and it's a long one, so by the end of it, we're probably going to have more tracks to listen to for the feedback, and then we'll continue doing that. Yeah, and I'll just make notes and as we go. Is the queue still open for submissions? Yes, we are. What an innovative way of arranging and documenting your track in live. I like it. Yeah, otherwise a project like this would just never finish. Seem to have some disk issues here still.
Done DMT.
Ooh.
It won't work.
this solo part will have to work in a lot more, because this gets boring over time for me. So here at this point it should already be falling apart and be overtaken more and more by other one-shots happening. And just like textures and that kind of stuff. So in general, there should probably be a bit more stuff happening here.
I had an experience once myself where I saw myself, and I know this sounds weird because I've been seeing, explode in a cloud of post-it notes that then became felt around and spread out.
126 tracks, wow. 435 is the current count, actually.
It feels like my cough
But I'll probably go a little bit higher than that still.
been unclogged after a long time of being dormant.
Just to give you an idea of the size of the actual Megaproject. Guys in here. So I made my first ambient drone track. Would you rate it? You can always drop it in the feedback queue, and once we're done with the playthrough of this track, we'll get to it. Exclamation point feedback if you're interested in getting your feedback from me. There's already a few more tracks in the queue, so I guess we'll do another little session after this. It's so clean and it's transparent. Wow, thank you. It's not even mixed yet. I'm just still working on the production. But as you can see, there's already been a lot of stuff that I've done here. This has definitely been my biggest project ever in terms of individual track. It's also 20 minutes long, so that's kind of what I expected. Snare build, and then of course here the production. At this point the production kind of goes, I guess, here now technically, because I'm pretty happy with this part in terms of like idea. Yeah, but I definitely have to do more stuff here still. That kick and rolling bass will never got old. I swear I can listen to it all day. Thank you. That's actually how they torture some people in prisons, is they let them listen to kick and bass for the whole day. I don't know why I said that. That's how I heard it, but I'm assuming that the synchronization, I'll have to do that more places. That final vocal is a main addition, which came quite late. Came 2 weeks ago, actually. We put that in there. And with those kind of elements, you always have to be really careful that they don't over dominate and are too estranged from the rest of the track. And I feel like it's a little bit there, but only because it's too fast. So what I'm going to do is, in both places where it places, I'm going to stretch it to double the length. Okay, but we're going to do all of that after the other segment of the feedback stream. So for those that haven't dropped their track into the feedback queue yet, now is the time to do so. Oh, I just meant to Shift tab is the one. Alt tab is a Windows shortcut. You should know that. You are a system admin. Oh, removing got the head out and I won't be able to watch the stream later. That's unfortunate. Sorry, JRB, who isn't here anymore. So definitely won't be able to hear my apology, but yeah, maybe next I'll try to see if I can get back into a schedule where just every week I do stream and do my feedback, and if not, then in 2 weeks maybe you'll be here. Sort of an industrial / psytrance track. Still feel like it needs something, and vocals will be added soon, hopefully. Okay. Fully mono export here. Definitely turn that off before releasing the final mix. So far, honestly, I don't feel like it needs more. I feel like it needs a little bit less. Honestly, you have cool elements, but they're not really working together too well. In breaks here, maybe it works better. Here with the actual extra melody on top, it could be cool, but for the other part, I would probably just, yeah, focus on these two elements here that we're playing there, without that extra melody on top. Because this part sounds much more intelligible. Keep in mind though, we're now listening to a version of the mix that naturally has one less dimension, so it's going to sound very flat and one-dimensional. Like literally, right? Nice to hear what is cooking. It is always interesting to hear what people are coming up with and what different things they do. I think that's a little bit loud, that effect there. I always like to imagine what the DAW project looks like for tracks that people submit. Is it a clean, organized project? Is it one big mess? Is it like, how are they working? How are they doing things? Is it all synth work? Is there samples involved? Do they write out one long MIDI clip, or do they make very short MIDI clips and duplicate it over many times? You know what I mean? Main lead is a little bit weak here, I would say. I would probably turn it up in volume. And what I would also likely do is get a little bit of that growliness out of the bass with an EQ. Just that the really high, the higher frequency part of that kind of wah sound that the bass has. And we try to EQ that out of the way a little bit. Just give it a little bit more clarity. Again, it's a little bit hard to judge because we're listening to the mono version. But I feel like even in the stereo version, you're going to get a little bit of trouble with some of the strong higher harmonics of the bass line that we see sometimes. EQ, would that be high-end? Depends on which EQ you were referring to. The EQ on the bass, yeah, you would be looking at the higher frequencies of the bass part. That would be somewhere in the mid-range. But yeah, that would be the higher frequencies of the bass. But some of his elements are not in mono. As far as I heard, it sounded all like it was mono to me. I'll have a little bit more of a look at the graph, but honestly I usually don't watch it too much. So far it's all pure mono. And we also hear reverbs in here, and if you want the reverb to sound mono, you have to explicitly render it out mono, or render out or like set it to mono in the track itself, right? Like you would have to put, maybe if you're working in Ableton, you would have to put the utility on there and then turn the track to mono. Or if you're exporting, what I think happened here is that he turned on mono when exporting and he just left it there. And honestly, I don't think I've ever exported a mono sound or track or signal from my DAW. I don't think there's ever been a moment where I was like, oh, I need a mono version of my track to listen. Because if you want to listen to a mono version of the track, just import it in the DAW and turn it the track mono. I think I did that by mistake. Yeah. So you can really easily avoid those kind of mistakes by just realizing that if you ever want to listen to your track in mono, you just import it into the DAW again and turn the track mono in the DAW while you're listening to it, as opposed to rendering out a mono version, because then you're going to have this possibility of making a mistake where you leave the mono thing on. And that is not something that you should probably want to have happen when you're exporting the thing for the actual release or something like that. It's really easy making those kind of mistakes. I know, because for the longest time, I believe for 3 years almost, no, 2 years almost, I had one of my tracks uploaded and accidentally only uploaded the kick drums of the track. Because I would render out the main track and then I would render out for the animation that I was making a track that was only the kick drums of the track. And I accidentally sent that to the Spotify distributor as opposed to, you know, the track itself. They didn't flag any of that, by the way. They were just like, oh yeah, you would just kick drums on your page. I'll have you have just kick drums on your page. No worries. Like they say they check quality and whatnot, but apparently they didn't care about the minute and a half of silence that was at the beginning of my track. Sometimes I'll be up late as hell and render out and make a mistake or leave something that I should have removed. Yeah, you should definitely have to. I don't have like personal checks and whatnot, but I try to not put myself in this situation where I ever leave something on, right? So if I were to say that I wanted to do a mono check on this project right now, what I would do is I would probably like put it to mono, right? And I would do my listening. This project is really slow, by the way. It's getting crazy. Yeah, you would do your mono thing, you would do your listening. Okay, cool, I've heard the things that I've heard, instant delete. Because then there's never a possibility of the device staying on there and affecting the sound when you don't want that to happen. And like you put yourself in a lot less danger of these accidents happening by just having a workflow that, okay, once I'm done with a process and I don't need it anymore, don't disable it, don't leave it on the track there, because it also consumes CPU still. But just delete it, and then the next time that you have to do it, yes, it takes 30 seconds to set up the thing that you needed to set up again, but at least you're safe in that regard. I've been seeing vids lately talking about monocompatibility, so I've been considering that recently. Monocompatibility, yeah, it depends on, like, I personally no longer check monocompatibility. Like what you just saw me do, actually putting the track into mono and listening, It's not something that I do anymore. I have gotten to the point where I feel that I know enough of what I'm doing that I'm able to just make sure that the mono mix is going to work well enough, even though I'm mixing stereo. Anyway, we're going to go through the last track that we have, at least for now. Dit is Anuva, It Only Hurts.
It only hurts when you're saying things I know you don't mean. And I can make something work if you ain't working with me. I can't
Very loud
believe you would believe
instant
your
start
own
here.
smile. Baby, please, it only hurts. It only hurts. You play with my mind, then you think it's fine. You crossing the line. It only hurts when you're saying things I know you don't mean. And I can make something work if you ain't working with me. I can't believe you would believe your own words now, baby, please. It only hurts. It only hurts.
Your kick doesn't really have any bass. It's just up until like 80 hertz, but it doesn't go in the actual thing that moves your body.
It only hurts me when you play with my mind. Don't even see that you've been crossing the line. So far so good as long as you think it's fine. You crossing the line.
I know that there was a Deadmau5 video where he says like, kick this kick, bass this bass, but the punch from the kick comes through, it's sweeping through the entirety of the
You
frequency.
think it's fine.
So I would definitely still do that, not cut it so short as you are doing here.
It only hurts when you're saying things I know you don't mean. And I can make something work if you ain't working with me. I can't believe you would believe your own words now, baby, please. It only hurts. It only hurts. Hurts, hurts, hurts.
There's definitely parts in this track where it's the same as what you were doing before, like the pre-drop was almost identical, I believe, in terms of concept, in terms of idea. So try to spice it up a little bit more, if you can. But other than that, some really cool ideas here, and probably needs an intro and outro because it's really really short. It's less than 2 minutes now, so maybe extend it a little bit as well. Go for the at least 2.5 minute mark, but I would probably go like 3.5. That is kind of where dance music tends to start. It's a really short drop as well. You can definitely make that double the length to just get to a little bit more of a decent timing and also have the people dance a bit more. But I guess that's happened. That is the kind of feedback you're going to get from a guy that makes tracks that are 20 minutes long. So go figure. One more if you have time. I always have time. So neuroticism. There should be 2 C's here, I believe, if you want it to be neurotic cynicism. But that is not it. Yeah. I shortened the kick for the long bass and I thought it played better that way. Yeah, but you shortened it a little bit too much. You shorten it to a 16 note or even less maybe. And I would probably have the sidechain of the bass go up as the kick goes down in the second 16 note of the beat. I was tired and fused the 2 words together. Yeah, but you're making my job of having to pronounce all of your very, very interesting and especially difficult to pronounce words. You're making that task even harder by doing that, so please stop that. Did he just scream balls? I'm asking because it's really hard to understand the vocal. The bass line has more mid-range than the vocal. Yeah, not really an idea what is going on in the vocal. feels like you're deliberately pushing the vocal out of the way of the rest of the track, whereas normally you do it the other way around. Oh, balls! I thought he was going balls! That he was saying that. That would be a very good lyric. Glitch. There's the very first word that I recognize in that I can understand in the vocal. And we're 2 minutes in. So definitely an issue that needs fixing. The vocal needs to be the main element here. But overall, in this track, in terms of mixing, more or less okay, enough to be released on music platforms like Spotify. I don't have any track yet. I don't believe Spotify has any minimal requirements for mixing quality on their platform. So you should be fine. Might not be successful, but at least put it on there. Because if you don't have any tracks on there, that means that you also have nothing to lose. And if you care at all about getting your music out there, the absolute worst way to do that is not putting it on Spotify. He's going to re-record the vocals. We're trying to finish this one up, but I want to clean up the music a little. Feels like there's little room for his vocals to come through cleanly. I agree. It's most likely that the clarity of the vocals has nothing to do with the vocals yourself. And I'm even willing to make the argument that without touching the vocals, I could probably get them to fit in the mix properly. If I was just in your studio and changing other parameters, changing the volumes of other elements, changing the volume of like or the EQ of other elements, like shaping out the frequency areas where vocals generally have that clarity, you know, the 6K area, and usually you want a little bit at 1000, and you want a little bit of a hum coming through at the 100 to 200 range, 100 to 300 maybe even. It would maybe me this vocal also, I would just up that by 3 to 6 dB. But I could probably get that other vocal to work in the mix by not touching the vocal. And I would be cheating kind of, in the sense that I would just turn all of the other tracks down, probably. I would end up doing that, which is, I guess, equivalent to turning up the volume of the track itself, but not really, because you're not touching that volume parameter, and therefore it kind of falls within the challenge I set for myself. But I think I would be able to do that, because it's not like it's a bad recording, probably, unless there's things in there that I cannot hear right now because of the other stuff that is going on in there. It can be the case that you didn't like the recording, and therefore you subconsciously put it so far behind the mix that the things that you didn't like about it are now masked by the other sounds. But that is definitely not a way to make music, right? Because you do want the stuff that you put in your track to actually sound good on its own. Thank you for your feedback. It's obvious you have a lot of experience in this shit. Thank you. Yes, I do. I run a label together with a few other people, and I've been making music and releasing music by myself for, I guess, technically I've been releasing by myself then for 11 years, and then with other people for 2 years. So in total I have just over 13 years of experience making music, 13 and a half. Start in January, if I remember correctly. Could I submit another track for feedback? Of course. Of course you can. But before that, we're going to listen to Cosby, also known as Canal, with Acid Fisting Master. Looks very cool there.
The majority of people, we don't know how to live in the now. Everyone is trying to predict the future based on a snapshot of the past. And that's basically how the brain works. What's happening is our survival instinct is being brought to the surface through the programming. And basically, there's no stronger driving force in any one of us on this planet than our need for survival. There's no stronger driving force in any... It's extremely important, but the thing is, it's easier said than done. It's something, it's a constant consciousness, it's a constant conscious activity that you've got to engage in.
Cool that we now have a little bit extra stuff here, but it would be cool to maybe have the vocal not start right at the start of the intro, but like add maybe 8 bars to the start of the intro where it's just a little bit of atmospheres and then sweeps up into the start of the vocal, and then from there the vocal starts continuing, so that you have a little bit more flow of it overall in there. Kick sounds slightly distorted. Yeah, it has some very strong saturation on it, and the click of your bassline also has quite a bit of comb filtering. Cannot see it in here, but I guess maybe you can if I zoom in and do this. Yeah, you can see it in the kick mainly actually here. This is what you would look for comb filtering. If there's certain pockets of frequency where it plays less, and in certain parts it just cancels completely. And that means, and if that is repeated in a regular fashion, that means that you have some kind of comb filtering happening on that sound there. So definitely go look for that. I hear it both in the kick and the bass, but on the meter it just shows up on the kick. Maybe it's because the kick is louder. The distortion also sounds nasty. Definitely the kind of distortion that if you play it on the Psytrance festival, the audio guy is going to have to double check his speaker setup, and he's going to be scratching his head like, am I doing this or is the DJ just playing distorted music? Because psychics are really, really clean, so any distortion, saturation, you immediately kind of notice it on there. Overall, the sound design is sounding really cool. I like the theme of the overall track. The rest of the mix is sounding very nice. Some very cool things happening in the fill there. Stuff. I saw the kick roll here, by the way. I was about to say that overall it's very well produced, but I saw the kick roll and you're definitely bleeding into from one kick drum into the next, so that's something to fix. Yeah, you can see it again. I'll try to see if I can pause it if the next one is.
Uncharted territory.
This one is not going to show it because it's half the speed, but you can actually see the length of the kick extending the whole way there. overall the sound design is amazing. There's some really nice details in the background atmosphere that you're doing. Could have been the part where I could have paused, but I wasn't ready. Your fill was so glitchy that my analyzers were glitching out, just displaying it. I like the way that you're altering between the sliding bassline that you're using and your rolling bassline. Very smooth done, very smoothly done. That means that in the lower frequencies you barely notice the difference between the two basslines. It's exactly what you want. Gelia, that's probably somebody who's subscribed to the channel somewhere else. Normally those messages are meant to just capture the stream, but it tends to capture everything on your YouTube channel. Because it cannot distinguish between people who subscribe watching the stream and people who subscribe not watching the stream. There's definitely something in your kick before the filtering that is causing the distortion, because I can still hear it. It's not like your master is distorting. Overall, very well done. I like it. Very cool. You have another one here? Yes, nanu.als after.wave2. Very interesting there, the double file extension. Thanks a lot, bro, and yeah. You're welcome. It's sometimes hard to remember what thing you're talking about when I see somebody saying like yeah in the chat, because it happens for you guys, it happens instantly, but for me everything that you guys are responding to happened for me 30 seconds ago or something like that, or 20 seconds ago, which is enough for your mind to already have moved on to the next topic. Ooh, this one is a little bit darker, a little bit sub-heavier. I don't know, I like this. I like the tonality of the kick and bass, but overall its mix definitely shaves some of the low end here. Also do your resampling.
Tunnels. Morris wasn't comfortable with how.
Wait. This is the start of the bass note. Yeah, you definitely need to resample this. This is the second click, the second oscillation here. I thought this was the transient. But as you see, this bass part is shorter than a 16 note. So this is a quarter of the distance between here and here, right? So this is where we expect the transient of the kick or of the bass. And it's not there. So definitely fix that. Definitely resample this stuff. Oh yeah, if you listen carefully, you can hear that the second oscillations click is stronger than the first one. Like it's not like a tack 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 tack, it's more like a pluck 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 pluck. There's a little bit of flop to it, which is a sound that I really don't like in bassline. Again, sound design wise, this is really nice. I like it. Overall, the ideas seem to work well with each other, and between tracks even I can see them working well with each other.
Deeper inside the damn cold passage, the space grew tighter above and around them. His two friends were smaller than him, and they could quickly work claustrophobic tunnels. Morris was uncomfortable with them.
Nice key change, I like that.
I was snorting. I had 20/20 vision. I could see coke rock, and shit. Now I can't see shit of it. I guess it's blood flow. Think about blood flow to the brain. I mean, doesn't coke give you like a crazy amount of blood flow to your brain? I mean,
You should probably manipulate Joe Rogan's voice at least to such an extent that he is a little less recognizable, because I personally don't like it when I can hear like a famous person. Like there's a few artists that sample, or a few tracks that sample Neil deGrasse Tyson. I have the same kind of issue with him, like, oh, I know, I can see his face in front of me while I'm dancing, and that is not really something that I personally like coming out of music. I like to be, I guess, more immersed in the unknown, as opposed to, you know, having specific things pop in my head when I'm listening to a track. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but that is how I would look at it. Also, you're writing in caps, by the way. I don't know if that's deliberate, but you shouldn't have to do that. Oh, I just got the notification. That's very late. Things are good. Things are very nice. I have mostly recovered from the sickness that I had last week, but still a little bit my throat that hurts. My phone is very old. Yeah, maybe that is a reason why, but that shouldn't. Normally YouTube should just push it out as soon as it goes out. Maybe it is indeed like the phone, once it receives on the phone, that it takes a while for it to display. Interesting. Very cool patterns being set up here between the two synths. You can definitely do something with the bass line to follow that as well. Make this an 8th note part, even. That idea is really strong in this part, so I would probably exploit that as much as possible with the bass and just offbeat this part for like 16 bars or even 32, and then go back into the rolling bass line. Discord doesn't give me notifications very often, it's only every couple of hours. Ah, the Discord notification. Yeah, that happens to me too. Discord pushes all of its notifications seemingly at once. Or if I have it open on my PC, it waits a while. So it kind of like first pushes it to my PC, and then if I take a long time not looking at it, it's almost like, hey, you haven't seen it, and then it pushes it to your phone as well to get your attention. Closing stream soon, or there's time for one more? So what I said is I believe I wanted to, I don't know if I said this out loud, but I wanted to finish the queue that we have for now and then take a quick break and then probably go into just production. So I'm not closing the stream, but I am probably stopping the feedback after this, because then we get up to roughly 2 hours, which I think is good. I like the vibe of it, like going up and down and wow, 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 and you cutting that up again and kind of rearranging that, and you getting interesting rhythms and cuts out of that. Some really cool things happening here. I would probably remove that, to be honest. That last little bleep there sounded like it sounded like a fart that just came out at the event, the very end there. Yeah, I'll close the channel, close the queue. Thanks for your time and feedback, bro. No worries. Not the sort of thing I usually make, but I'm very happy with how it turned out. This is Ghosted by Fragmental. Looks like a very cool cover art here. They're definitely doing some interesting things with the blacks here, because it's not entirely black. There's like a little bit of a background thing going on, I believe. At least if I move it around like this, it does seem to happen. Very loud track.
You don't even
Very cool, very well done with the loudness. I think the mix can be a little bit better, like the riser could be a little bit lower and the vocal could be a little bit higher in that last part of the drop. But overall, we're getting some pristine loudness here. One thing I will say is you can get more impact in your drop by lowering slightly, maybe up until 1 dB over the course of the build, your ceiling or your final limiter or the clipper that you're going into. This is probably going into a clipper somewhere as opposed to a limiter. For the second drop, take your vocal and shift its performance up by 12 semitones so that you get like a chipmunk version of it. That way there's a difference between the first and the second drop. But overall, very, very cool. I like that. No one can say there isn't enough stereo width. No, yeah, it was the right amount of stereo width. Keep in mind that it was very loud, so it gets wider, but maybe not relative, right? It was also really hard clashing against the top and the bottom here, and that is the actual clipper that you can see in the stereo field. Because keep in mind, guys, the way that you read this graph is that the left channel is displayed on this axis and the right channel is displayed on this axis, and all of the individual points that you see are nothing more than an encoding of both the left and right channel sample in 2 dimensions based on what the left channel does in 1 dimension and what the right channel does in this dimension, right? So if the right channel is playing positive samples and playing very loud positive samples, it's going to be up here. And if the left is playing very loud, very positive samples, it's going to be up here. And those vector products sum together to something that would be right here and here. There would be a 90-degree angle between them, and it would be over here. But our clipper is already acting down here. So you can, stuff that would be mono over here is getting clipped off to down here. So it looks white, but that is because the mono stuff is already clipped off. Okay, then I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to put on some music from me that is not this project, because we heard it earlier. And then once I'm back, what we'll do is we'll work on this track. And we'll do that for a couple of hours until I'm bored, and then I'll end the stream. How about that? Like, it actually takes a good 10 seconds to import. Just to import the file, not to even start reading it. Now it's reading the actual file. Just for Ableton to say, like, okay, make a new track, and here is the clip size, I guess. I don't know how Ableton does it, but just looking at the task manager, I shouldn't open up my task manager like this. But opening up my task manager, it is using 15 gigabytes, and it's currently reading from the disk. But that shouldn't be what it normally does. It should hold the whole project in RAM, which I would think you would have some kind of dynamic way of just adding quick things to the project. Sorry, I've been coding too much at work lately, so I'm actually thinking about how I would optimize the Ableton save file at this point. This is where we see Projector is using hacks to cheat at music production. I'm not cheating. I'm just simply better. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. I'll have a quick break, and then we'll work on some music together.
Step reaction.
Cool. With it coming in winter now, does that mean there's less equipment hiring for you? Well, not really. like events continue and conferences will always happen. So there's definitely periods where you know that there's more stuff happening, right? So June, July is a very busy time because it's right before the August vacation where the whole of Italy just closes. But it's not that it's not really like, honestly. First of all, I haven't worked there for a year yet, so there's just parts of the year that I have never experienced before, right? And they have told me like, yeah, January is going to be a little bit lower, February is going to be a little bit lower, and then slowly it ramps up a little bit again till March, May, April, and then that's usually when we're back at the full level, right? But normally it's not so bad that you're really like, oh, now we have just no hires going out, and other points you're just completely flooded. In fact, last week we were completely out of PCs with maybe 2 or 3 exceptions. We had like 2 or 3 laptops left in the magazine, and the rest was all out on events being used and being hired by people. So right now, definitely not. Well, what do I want to? I want to primarily work on this part here because I'm kind of tired of the last part not really being a fully finished production. So I hope that I can make some progress in here. I want to start with some synths in here. Let's do that. I'll download the Serum update next time I open it. Or the next time I open a project. Not now. Believe, yeah, we're still in E. Gavin the Maker, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. I should change my title, by the way. Because I'm not doing feedback anymore. I know people are going to start coming in now and start to wonder. So I'm just going to like that. We already have MIDI here. Nice. We'll just duplicate that over here. What are some of your favorite plugins? Definitely Serum 2, Omnisphere. I would go for the Melda stuff is really good. The whole Melda bundle I've been using forever now, mainly in the mixing contest. But there's probably going to be, yeah, M Turbo Reverb is a really good reverb. If you ever need a reverb, it's expensive. It's like $300, but it's definitely worth it because you can just buy that and use that for the rest of your career as the reverb plugin. I right now don't really think that there's like an individual plugin that I would put on everything. There's a lot of people that just put plugins on stuff without really thinking about, oh, okay, what do I need? And when I'm mainly in the mixing stage is where I tend to use the most plugins, because when I'm in production stage, I mainly like EQing, I always EQ with the main Ableton EQ, because this is good enough for production, right? I'm not going to sit here and make minute tweaks to individual harmonics unless I really have to, and in that case, this EQ can even do that. So I don't need, like, for example, like how many people use Pro Q3 or 4 for all of their EQing. That's not something that I particularly need for my own setup. If there is a plugin that I can really not live without in terms of the processing, I would probably go for M Turbo Reverb. It's definitely a very good one. Are there any tricks that you use that not a lot of people do? Yeah, so I've been using this trick actually for, I would say, the last 13 years now consistently. And that is that I try to learn what a plugin does and how it works. And I do things like reading manuals and not so much like consuming tutorials and watching other people set settings and then copying that, but actually, sitting there experimenting and reading things that of documentation that plugins provide you to get better at using those plugins. And usually that is better than any amount of tutorials that you can watch. So that is definitely one big thing that doesn't get discussed enough in music production, is how much you need to do yourself as as your learning process. As you're continuing your learning process, you have to do that learning yourself. You cannot really spoon feed your learning by just tutorials. What tutorials do is they show you the possibilities that you have to learn, to say it like that. Read the fucking manual is always good advice. Yes, very much. How many reverb rooms do you use in a mix to build depth in the mix? I don't. When it comes to mixing, I don't consider reverb part of that process because it's so integral to the sound of Psytrance. I consider that part of the production. So all of this stuff is not what you see here has nothing to do with mixing, because this is not entered at the mixing stage. We're still in the production stage. What I'm at some point going to do is I'm going to render out each individual track here, and I'm going to import it into Reaper so that I can mix into Reaper. And what that allows me to do is, one, it separates the production and the mixing stage for me, but it also helps with just, plugin performance and project performance. If I were to start throwing all of my mixing plugins on top of this here, it would become a mess and it would be really unusable. Like, the project is already at the edge of what I would like to have in terms of performance. But if I were to do that, then it would be an absolute mess and I wouldn't be able to do that. That also allows me to, because I export them normalized, it resets the volume balance between all of those elements. So I'm forced to redo that myself. And it takes a lot of time doing that, but it forces you to look at each individual element and essentially judge three things. So volume balance, spectral balance, and stereo balance are the main things that I listen for in the mixing stage. And with volume balance, I don't mean just the fader, I also mean dynamics and just loudness more. So those are the main three things that I would look for in a mix. And reverb really doesn't, like, I sometimes put a reverb on one sound in the mixing stage, but the reverbs usually are already on the sounds that I'm working with. Any other tricks that are more involved? No, there's no tricks. It's literally that. It's learning. You have to learn it in the same way that any skill takes time to learn. And honestly, one of the reasons why I've stopped doing, or at least why I'm currently kind of at the point where I'm just tired of making tutorials, is that I think I've said everything that I wanted to say in terms of the things that I wanted to really teach people, right? In the sense that I've done my bassline tutorials, I've done my synth tutorials, I've done my melody or ARP tutorials, I've done things on kicks, I've done videos on every different element that you can think of and every different process that you can think of within music production. And there's nothing really for me to add anymore, because there isn't a trick. There isn't a secret plugin that the pros are using that you aren't using. There isn't a master process that makes your track sound from shit to amazing. There isn't a individual process or trick or thing that you can do that is like what you're, I guess, trying to ask for. None of those things actually exist. The only way in which they exist is as a marketing scheme for you to lose money to whoever is selling you things. And I guess that's not entirely true, because there is one trick that I actually, but this again, it sits in the learning aspect, in the sense that it's a trick on how you should learn music production, as opposed to a trick that you should do in music production. One thing that I've done, which I'm really happy about, is that for about 2.5 years, while I was doing this YouTube stuff full time and all of that, I listen to music for an hour a day in the morning on my actual system. So just sitting here and actually like listening before I was doing anything. So mixing stage or production, whatever I was doing, always every morning I would sit here and listen to some music. And yes, I would maybe, respond to a few emails, but generally speaking, I would also be listening attentively and trying to hear certain things in the track while I was listening. And what that does is it's just massive ear training. And you're going to need massive amounts of ear training as well. Not so much in the traditional sense in which people say ear training, and that they identify frequencies and they identify intervals. That can be useful. But honestly, the main thing that I listen to is just how does other people's music sound? And can I make my stuff sound as close to that as possible? So the best advice to learn shit is to figure it out in your own way, so it's impossible to forget and you can build techniques that are unique to you. Well, yeah, my main argument there was just that you have to do it yourself, not so that you're unique in any way, because that doesn't matter. What matters is that you can create the music that you want to create. I wasted 20 years avoiding learning EQ compression and just tried getting what I need. After learning how those tools work and what they can do, it actually started inspiring ideas. Yeah, just knowing your tools and knowing the possibilities that you have with your tools definitely can spark inspiration in doing new things. One thing that you sometimes struggle with is that once you have learned a few things that work, say for example this setup here where we have phase distortion from a sine wave and phase distortion from a triangle wave, those things, they are the standard for you to kind of go through, right? In the say that you're wanting to make a sound like I'm doing now. I know that this is a setup that can create some cool different textures that I could use and that I could branch off of. So there's likely multiple sounds that have this oscillator setup with the different waveforms loaded in there, and they're probably doing some kind of FM, like double FM on oscillator A type deal. Right now that is also my default for the way that Serum opens up, but I also know that there's quite a few cool things that you can do there, but it's a limited sonic palette, to say it like that. And therefore, there is a chance that I'm always going to get roughly the similar kind of sound as opposed to really, I guess, diving in from scratch and exploring new things. But that's okay, because I guess once you're at the level of music production like I am, where it feels natural to write music, and I never really question myself in the sense that that there's never really moments that I feel like I'm completely lost in what I'm doing. There's of course moments where I doubt myself, but it's not. Anytime I open up Serum, I already have in my head exactly which sound I want to create, what it needs to do, and also roughly what kind of the components of the sound are going to be. What do I need in the filters? What do I need in the oscillators? What do I need to do in the effects? That kind of thing. I always already have that plan in my head before I start working on the sound. But that probably what I was trying to get at also means that my plans are limited in the palette that I use. I don't go and just explore things, if that makes sense. I already kind of know what I want, and therefore I am limiting myself to a certain extent creatively. So that I guess because it's music is at the end of the day is a product, so you have to finish a track at some point, which is nicely said by me, who has been working on the same track for over 3 months now. But yeah, you do have to finish music at some point, and therefore trying to progress to a finished track by making the things that you know how to do might actually also be somewhat of a positive. I don't know. I don't know what the best way is. because it's also going to depend on what you like to do. What is your process for remaking a synth patch? I've done it hundreds of times, so I can build off my experience, just knowing what I know about. There's no, oh, you first go waveform, you then go. You just have to identify properties about the sound and look in your own memory of things that you know about sound design to go and try to estimate which processes were used to create the sound. I'm still learning, but I feel with what I've learned, and again, there's cool tricks you can do with that actually start to understand them. That's changed my sound. Learning a little is very rewarding, and it makes me want to learn more and experiment more. Yeah, so that's good. That is the way that you want to do it, is you want to do self-experimentation and self-discovery. And honestly, I guess one of the things I should have maybe said better is that you should read the manual. Reading the manual for the tools that you use is one of the best ways to inspire you, because it just lays out all of the things that you can potentially do, right? Like I said before, I have maybe a small palette of standard sounds that I know, that I go for and that work. And what the manual does is it just breaks that open, because it tells you everything that you could potentially do within, say, Serum 2, right? And I have read the Serum 2 manual, so I'm kind of in there, but maybe every once in a while I should just reread the manual. But honestly, how much time do I have? The day that you think you're not learning anymore is the day that you've become complacent. Oh yeah, it's not that I'm not learning, it's that whenever I need something, whenever I have something in my head, I tend to go for the safe route that I know works, so that I can progress the project that I'm working on. As opposed to trying to sit here and spend an hour making a synth while I'm working on this production. I'm much more likely to do that in a session where I have just a clean slate and I'm in the mindset of like, oh, this afternoon I'm just going to sit here and sound design, as opposed to trying to get to a finished product. You know what I mean? Is there such a thing as correct in music production? Yes. There's correct way to do things and there's incorrect way to do things. And all of the things that you do correct or incorrect are in the format of, if you want this, then you have to do that. There is never a then you have to do that without a if you want this. For example, if you want to have a clean sounding a punchy kick and bass, you need to make sure that your transients of the kick and bass are void of any bleeding from previous notes. That doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to do that within Psytrance music, but for one, that it's likely always a desired effect to have cleaner, punchier kicks and basses. So I would argue, just as a consequence of that always being true, that therefore the fact that you have to make sure that you have no bleeding is always true as well. But for example, in techno, I can see that it's very much a benefit to have a rumbly, muddy mid-range, and maybe to not have the punchiest of punchiest parts of a kick and bass, as opposed in the way that we do that in Psytrance, right? Where we really make sure, like, okay, the note stops playing and then we have a little bit of silence, and then we have the next note and it stops playing and we have a little bit of silence. That compartmentalizing that you do in the bass line for Psytrance, it really is a Psytrance only thing. But there's a correct way to achieve that. And but so I'm saying that in the way that I want to emphasize that rules can be broken, but there's definitely rules that if you break them, your track is probably going to get worse. I hope that that makes sense. It's not, there's no 100% rule that you for every music production project you open, you have to do this. But there are rules that if you want your thing to do a certain thing, if you want your, I don't know, if you want your vocals to be clear in the mix, which you likely want. But if you want to have your vocals clear in the mix, you should probably EQ out a lot of, or you should probably take care a lot of the 6 kilohertz range in other elements, and likely you have to cut out some 6K or around that area in other elements, because at 6K is roughly where the s of the S's are, and a lot of the other kind of little details in a vocal that make the pronunciation of a vocal much clearer, and making space in the mix for those details is very, very important. So that is a rule, right? It doesn't mean that you always have to, anytime you put a vocal in your project, immediately start going into your other tracks and start lowering stuff with an EQ. Because there's people that suggest that there's rules like that, where, oh, you have to use this plugin, or, oh, you have to do this. 10 secret mixing tricks that the pros use and you don't. Those kind of things, right? I want to stay away from there being rules like that in music production. What is the biggest lie spread in music production? What is the hardest truth? Well, both of the things that we just said. The hardest truth is that you have to learn music production in order to be good at it. And the biggest lie is that there's tricks that you can learn to avoid learning. That's it. There's really nothing much more to music production. Just like, by the way, any other skill. Do you know any other skill where you can go to, I don't know, university for accounting, and you go to university and you learn that for 5-6 years, and at the end of the 6 years, the professor comes in and he is like, oh, but you didn't need to learn all of that. You can just use this trick here. That doesn't happen, right? For any skill, and music production is a skill, so it follows those basic principles, and that skill is something you need to learn, and you do that by doing things. So if you want to learn the sub skill, I guess, of sound design, like I've done, you need to make a lot of sounds, and you need to make them yourself from scratch, not by sitting there watching the tutorial and saying, if the guy puts this to number 2, I also put it to number 2. But no, you experiment and see, what does sound do when I apply certain processes. Read the manual again, because it explains a lot of the processes that you might not know, right? I learned what a chorus is because I read the manual of a plugin that really wasn't a chorus plugin. I believe it was the manual for Serum 1, but it might actually be some other plugins. But I learned certain processes because I read what they do in a manual. Not because not even because I experimented with it, and certainly not because I heard somebody else explain what they do in a tutorial. Because I can sit here and explain what a chorus does, but you're going to forget that information by the next time you open up a chorus plugin. Not if you learn it yourself. Like what we're getting here, but I want a little bit. I'll temporarily do this. This is cool, but I was hoping it would actually sync the sync. This seems to, yeah, do the same thing. It's not like it takes this waveform and now syncs the whole waveform. It just still syncs the sine wave, which is annoying. I can technically do that, right? I can just go, let's do that actually. Let's go here. No, we don't even have to do that. We can just render you, move you to wavetail position. Here. And now, see how that's different? See how this is now synchronizing? See how every compartment of the sync has now its own like sync in there? That's cool. Why do you think so many music producers plateau in skill over time? I don't think that happens. I think you learn you continue to learn all the time. A month ago, I sent a friend a track that I thought sounded good. Now I listen to it and I realize how bad it is, and I hear a lot of mistakes. But you have to start somewhere. Exactly, yes. The live glitching, just for me? No. It shouldn't be. Stream health. Stream is healthy. Twitch. Doesn't seem to lag for me. Maybe if I make... Let's see what happens if I try to fight the bitrate. Yeah, no. That looks good for me. Are you doing more feedbacks today? No. For today, the feedback is over. We did almost 2 hours, which was enough. It's smooth now. Cool. Cool. Kind of want this to go like opposite. Cool. We'll assign a macro to this. And I'm thinking of, it might be a bit wild to now FM that, but let's go the other way. Let's go FM from B here. Cool. That's kind of what I wanted to get at. Maybe even... Yeah, like a darker, that kind of thing, fam. Or that kind of thing. I just read fam on the chat. That's not a word that I normally personally use. Got you, fam. It's nice to see yourself getting older, isn't it? Realizing that the world that you grew up in is no longer yours. My MIDI controller was turned off. It's always scary when you have to turn on devices like that. And this one we can delete. Okay. Now I'll try to record in something. I'll start with Macro 5 actually. Oh yeah, you're not going to hear any of this. But that doesn't matter. We'll just see what we can do here. You literally don't hear any difference for this process in such a low frequency that the filter is set to. Cool. The other guy. And this will be the main movement of the sound, so this should have more impact. Just too late there to prevent it overriding, but it's easy to fix. Definitely do some interesting stuff here with something with this maybe. And then we add an LFO. I hate that every time I now load a new device, it actually freezes up the interface so much that for like 1 frame I see my desktop background. Here again, while I'm saving. Might actually show up for you guys as well, I don't know. But yeah, I want to map this guy to you. Probably like this. We're getting some really cool aliasing at the higher levels of the DFM on this guy. So that's definitely something we should experiment with more. There's some cool sound combinations coming out of this one. I want to record both of the other guys too then. This guy and this guy. And we'll likely have to record more because I want to have this be quite a complex sound. I can remove the first guys here. But we'll start with this. We're gonna be using the aliasing of the low quality modes that Serum has. We're deliberately not like setting it to higher quality so that we get all of those all that digital aliasing that you hear here. Cool. And then we do this guy. Cool. Let's just do a few basic effects on this. Simple EQ, removing probably a lot of lower frequencies that are going to be in this crazy thing. And then we'll add our delay and hopefully we can then get it into the track. In an interesting way. It genuinely takes like 30 seconds for this project to load an EQ. It's... Oh. So that was a crash. Well. There goes that patch. I guess not, because we did save it. I guess if it's able to recover, we should be able to save the patch. Oh man. If this project is getting to the point already where it's crashing and I still have to do so many details on it and finish part of the production, I'm expecting to like end at, I don't know, 550 tracks. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be very wild if I have to do that. And I don't want to render stuff if I can avoid it. By the way, my desktop is a real mess, isn't it? Like, this is actually going to take a long time to load. I'm sorry. This is actually just like a boring part of the stream. There's nothing to do. Still waiting. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it is because I'm streaming that this project is so slow. Because my OBS does use significant resources when it's streaming. Like right now, it's on its own using like 10 to 15% CPU. So maybe that is part of the problem. It's not going to magically make this project load in 30 seconds, but it might be the difference between sitting here waiting for, I don't know, 20 seconds on a plugin and sitting here and waiting on the plugin for 30 seconds and immediately having Ableton crash right after it loads. Only now it gets into opening up the file. And actually, oh no, that is faster than I was expecting. I thought it was then still going to do the loading or restoring process. I wonder if it says how many bytes it is or how big it is. Probably not measured in bytes anymore, probably measured in kilobytes, but the whole folder is 10 gigabytes. The project itself is only 26 kilobytes. Huh. So it's not the project that is heavy, it's the stuff within it. All the samples. There's not much that you can do. You should go there. You need to re-enable. You need to re-enable. And he doesn't re-enable because it's glitched. Or at least it doesn't turn red because it's glitched. Anyway, I'm immediately saving, so whatever happens, even if we get another crash and I don't restore, we at least have the patch, because I like where this is going. I have 2 projects right now that I'm working on that take forever to load up, and it's frustrating. It is definitely frustrating when your PC or your I guess when your creativity outgrows the capabilities of your CPU. That's the best way to put it. It's kind of wild to think that it's already time for me to upgrade PC again, which is not something that I want to do. I wish to spend my money on other things if I can avoid it. And my PC should be good enough to just handle this. It's just this project that is big. And even then, I could probably... Well, no, because it's not plugin performance that is the issue. I definitely feel that it's disk issue. Or a disk thing that is causing the problem. Getting a little bit on the noisy side there. Let's see if we can fix that with some looping. Ah, it's because these guys aren't set. This was here. So now we can save. Takes a while again. But what I hoped I can do... What could I do to fix it? Should I just like render out, I don't know, effects and the drums and bass group at this point temporarily so that I can... Oh, but that would be terrible to work. No, I wouldn't want that. I just have to like bite through the next month of production, I guess. And even then, it's not like I produce a lot nowadays anyway. Like, I probably make less music now than I have in the last 5-6 years. But yeah, that's what you get if you get a day job. Kind of expected. Oop, we get the reverse thing happening here. Nice. Other reverser, of course. This should also get much more wild towards the end here. Probably glitching it up with both shaper bugs, and then I'll probably do a Chris glitch before it so that it alters it a little bit. Oh yeah, I need to download this guy as well. I should write down what I need to update, because this guy is interesting because of the pitch shifter. Serum and shaper box. I want to dive into the pitch shifter at some point. By the way, I don't know how long I'll continue streaming. I try to get to 3 hours, but it's I'm probably not going to do much longer than that. I know we did a lot of notes making, but we're going to end up with a project that is fuller of notes, not emptier, like we did last time, unfortunately. Some cool glitchy stuff happening in there. Let's try something like this. Yeah, and then a little bit higher here. kind of just destructs into a more glitchy sound, I guess, as opposed to just continuously being that rhythm. Yeah, this guy's gonna go lower here. Lower here, and we're going to have maybe like 2-3 more sequences that then are coming in throughout this part here. The thing I want to do before that is to, I guess, render out this vocal then. I'll do that for both, but what I'll do is put all of the effects outside so that I can just alter the vocal manually. So these 3 will drop on the group so they don't come in the freeze, or they aren't frozen down into the actual sample that we're going to create, and we'll freeze this guy. So I don't know if this is actually better or worse, if we're substituting or removing a plugin like Falcon and adding back a file that it needs to read from disk. Because I believe right now the bottleneck in this project, it feels like the bottleneck in this project is not my CPU and it is my disk speed. It just has so many files that it needs to read on the disk. Just in the project file itself, the samples are currently like 11 gigabytes. So that plus all of the samples that I'm getting from outside is probably quite a lot. Believe I've put some of the samples in RAM, but I don't even remember if I did all of them, or which I did. I know I didn't do all of them. You have to be selective also with putting sounds into RAM because it's not a solution to like sound having issues buffering, right? But if it's the same sound over and over again, maybe it's in like a place, or maybe you have that on a disk that is a little bit slower or something like that. Depends a bit. I have my samples on a slower disk than my project, for example. But those things, they have a bigger impact on performance than, I guess, the amount of plugins that you load or something like that. I think, at least that is what it feels like. It's hard to explain why I get that feeling, apart from just every once in a while it actually telling me like, hey, the disk is dropping out whenever I do a long playback. Like I think that happened during the break because the music just stopped for a second during the break when I played the other track. Just that particular sample not being able to be read from the disk in time for it to actually play back. And you hear that if that happens with other sounds in your project, you of course also hear that. But it also feels like, it almost feels like, to be honest, like every change that I make in Ableton is directly written to disk. And at this point, the project is so big that it takes just a time for it to look through the project and like iterate through all of the different, because a project file for Ableton is just an XML file. and an XML file is just made up of a whole bunch of different tags. So it's literally just text, right? That it has to read through, and depending on what the text is doing, it might be, or depending on what text it finds, it might do one thing or the other, and therefore you can have a project that is different from the other, right? But it will be a tag for like first the track, and then all of its properties, and then the next track and all of its properties, and maybe a track can have a subtrack, so that way it's part of a group, and that way the whole structure of everything that you see in the file is kind of written out in text. And like I said, it honestly feels like it is reading and writing that text from disk every time you make a change, as opposed to holding it in RAM and only saving it when you hit save, which is actually what it's doing. Because otherwise it would actually be like lagging. If every action that you did took as long as it would take to save the file. Yeah. Kick and bass here. The only bad thing I do is that I kill everybody. Okay. Good for you, I guess. I don't know what that's referring to. Did I say something that is referring to, or is this just a random message? I like that. I'm just going to drag and drop that in here. I am so scared every time I see the desktop. This is annoying to produce like this. I need to find a way to make that better for this to really work. Honestly, currently with this amount of lag, it's like uninspiring. Now I have to remove the group again. Wait here, and I'll sit for another 30 seconds. Also, I feel the need to save after every 3 things I do, because I'm scared that I'm gonna lose the very little progress that I have made if I don't. But honestly, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my camera. I'm going to play through the track one more time, but with the this thing in the way. so that I don't feel the need to write any more notes and make it even worse. And then I'm going to end the stream, and I'll have to find a way that I can work on this project in a bit more of a normal way, I guess. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for hanging around up until this point. I'm sorry that the stream is maybe a bit shorter than you guys were expecting and ending a little bit abruptly, but honestly, I'm getting frustrated with the performance of this project, definitely. I can definitely feel it now. And I'm going to continue working on it after I finish the stream, just to check if my OBS and all of the things that I'm doing while I'm streaming, like the programs that I've opened while I'm streaming, is an issue. Maybe that is the bottleneck. Maybe that is the final drop in the bucket that is turning this project from like decently performing to absolutely terrible. But I highly doubt that that is of any influence. And then I'll if not, I'll have to see what to actually do about this. Should I make all of the sounds in the separate project, render them out to then audio, and then import them as just samples, or maybe just render out my effects group, for example, and just remove like all of these sounds from it. Or maybe I should just start bouncing down stuff from multiple tracks to individual tracks again, so I can reduce the actual amount of files that we have in here. Either way, I'm gonna need to do something about it. So yeah, I'll end the stream here. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys next time. For now, this is just going to be a playthrough of the track, and then I'll be ending.
on DMT. It won't work.
I had an experience once myself where I saw myself, and I know this sounds weird because I'm used to seeing, explode in a cloud of post-it notes that then came, fell to the ground, and spread out.
It feels like my cosmic sinuses have been opened up and unclogged after a long time of being dormant, and it feels great.